This is not just a stone circle. It's the largest in the world, built by people who lived over 5,000 years ago and shrouded in mystery. But who were they? Why did they build this? And how does this place fit into one of the most remarkable prehistoric landscapes in Britain? Welcome to the world of Avebury. In this video I will guide you through its origins, use and other monuments in the landscape. My name is Louise, I'm an archaeology student and I'm actually developing a game set at Avebury. So be sure to subscribe to follow along my own journey into exploring this extraordinary place and the stories it holds. Avebury is located in Wiltshire, in southwest England. The site contains a massive henge monument, which is a bankered ditch, with an outer stone circle and two smaller inner stone circles, the southern and northern. Inside the monument, the village of Avebury was eventually built, dating back to the Anglo-Saxon period. It's part of a broader prehistoric landscape though, with other remarkable sites including Windmill Hill, Windmill Hill, West Kennet Long Barrow and the Sanctuary. Stonehenge is also not too far away. There is very limited evidence for humans in this area in the Paleolithic, and it's not until the Mesolithic, with its improving climate and woodland environments, that human hunter-gatherers began to explore this landscape. Evidence for this is limited to isolated finds of flint tools, most of which do date to the later end of the Mesolithic, and none of these find spots in the immediate Avebury area represent anything more than a quick passing, likely just being dropped accidentally. But around 4000 BC, significant changes began to shape life in Britain. This period marks the beginning of the Neolithic, or New Stone Age, a time of monumental transitions. The most notable was the shift from hunter-gathering lifestyle to settled farming communities due to the introduction of domesticated plants, animals, and technological advancements like creating pottery. Avebury was likely still heavily wooded at this time, but as farming increased, some of this woodland would have cleared. The transformation was not instantaneous, but by around 3700 BC, a settled community had begun to emerge in the Avebury area. In around 3675 BC, Neolithic people began to construct a large monument, now known as Windmill Hill. This causeway enclosure is still the largest of its kind in Britain and consists of 3 concentric ditches. It likely required around 62,000 hours to dig. However, this wasn't done all at once. It's thought that several different Neolithic groups worked on this over several years, probably during quieter periods in the agricultural cycle. Archaeological finds here reveal a large number of cattle and sheep remains, and it's been suggested that Windmill Hill may have been a place to hold festivals or markets where animals were slaughtered and artefacts traded, or potentially this was a place of ritual feasts, or maybe a combination of both of these. A long barrow is a type of monument from the early Neolithic period. They often contain human remains and have therefore been interpreted as a type of tomb. The one at West Kennet is one of the largest in the country. It's 100 metres in length and 20 metres wide. The exact construction date isn't known, but it's thought to have been about 3650 BC. It's estimated this took 16,000 hours to complete, as you got to move tons and tons of earth and stone. Inside here, archaeologists discovered cremated and skeletal remains of at least 46 individuals. And this particular barrow was used for about 1,000 years and likely closed around 2000 BC. The exact chronology of Avebury's construction is complicated and unclear. Limited excavation and more recent surveys indicate that many more features once existed within the henge, as is the case in others in the country. Much of the Avebury that we see today is the product of excavation and reconstruction by Alexander Keeler in the 1930s. The earthwork itself is known to have been built in at least 2 stages, and the complexity of the interior stone settings implied they too were erected over a large period of time. It's better to think of Avebury Henge as an ongoing project, rather than adhering to a single architectural design. In 2017, a geophysical survey provided new clues into the origins of Avebury. At the heart of the southern inner circle once stood the obelisk, one of Avebury's largest stones. Excavations by Keeler unearthed intriguing features near the central stone, starting with a 30.8 metre long line of stone holes west of the obelisk. Keeler referred to this new discovery as the Z feature. Alongside it he found medieval burial pits that contained distinctive reddish sartans, which were much smaller than the other Avebury megaliths. Perpendicular stone holes at the end of this line hint that the Z feature may have formed a rectangular alignment. Excavations also revealed a stone hall that didn't belong to either the southern circle or the Z feature, and a cluster of post holes, gullies and pits to the immediate north of the obelisk, along with two features he interpreted natural and the series of shallow holes which he interpreted as medieval pits. Re-evaluation of these features determined that the Z feature's stone halls were also far larger than the stones Keeler later re-erected into them, suggesting they may have originally held megaliths comparable in size to those of the southern inner circle. The gullies were also parallel in length and defined a structure of approximately 6.9 metres by 6.8 metres, and 3 oval pits or post holes running between them connected by shallow slots. Keeler said this structure was medieval, thinking it could have been a cart shed or pigsty, but this can be questioned. There was an absence of medieval pottery in the gullies and only 3 shards from the pits, likely just from rabbits. This all casts doubt on this medieval origin. Instead, this recent survey actually suggests it is early Neolithic in origin. Several factors actually do point towards this. The structure's alignment is actually in the centre of the southern inner circle, suggesting it adheres to this. It's also associated with a localised spread of early Neolithic worked flint and pottery, which is otherwise rare within the Henge. Its plan also closely resembles other early Neolithic houses found elsewhere in Britain. The structure's size at 7 by 7 metres and the 346 flints associated with it all point towards an early Neolithic domestic site, the first of its kind to be identified in Wessex. Such houses only tend to last a generation or two, but when they collapse, they leave behind a visible earthwork. The collapse of the structure may have eventually been commemorated with megaliths, forming the southern inner circle and eventually sort of braiding out into the Avebury we see today, all commemorating just this one house. But what about the northern circle? That's just the southern inner circle. We know there's 2. What does that mean? And that's a good question, and interestingly, early Neolithic houses often come in pairs or small groups. And at the centre of Avebury's northern inner circle is another unique megalith like the obelisk, the Cove, what was 3 large stones alongside a cluster of uninvestigated features. So this raises the possibility that a second early Neolithic building might be here, perhaps mirroring the one in the southern circle. And together these structures may have set the stage for the monumental landscape that followed. So just to summarise, in Avebury we've got evidence of this modest early Neolithic house, or 2, built around 3700 BC. Then to the north we've got Windmill Hill, a major ceremonial site constructed around 3675 BC. And to the south we've got West Kennet Long Barrow, built around 3650 BC. And although this early Neolithic house likely only stood for a generation or 2, its location remains significant, and by 3000 BC the significance was marked with the erection of megaliths. So between 3000 and 2700 BC, Avebury's primary earthwork, the massive ditch and bank, was being constructed. Though the exact timeline does remain speculative, but we do know from dating material that the later bank, which sort of solidifies and seals this one, was definitely built around 2500 BC. This ditch is monumental in scale. It's stretching about a mile in circumference and originally over 9 metres deep. Before the iconic stone circles they were erected, we think that the timber structures may have occupied the same sort of space, as we see this in other henge sites in Britain. The stone circles, like we see today, were probably constructed between 2600 and 2300 BC, alongside the famous stone avenues that sort of stretch out of Avebury. This is a massive project built in phases and evolving over time, and probably just echoed these early Neolithic house and eventually just expand into this vast structure we see today. By the later Neolithic and early Bronze Age, the Avebury landscape saw construction of other intriguing monuments. Around 2500 to 2000 BC, we also see the emergence of the Bronze Age of Britain, which is another period of significant cultural change, including the introduction of metalwork and the spread of the beaker phenomenon. And these changes in rituals may have influenced the construction of these new monuments. Built around 2500 BC, the sanctuary was a ceremonial temple, consisting of rings of stones and wooden posts. It's unclear if the stones and posts would have coexisted, but their arrangement does suggest careful planning to control movement and restrict access, emphasising some sort of exclusivity of the rituals that were happening. Built around 2400 BC, we also have Windmill Hill. This is the largest artificial prehistoric mound in Europe. It's really mysterious and compares in height and volume to the roughly contemporary Egyptian pyramids. It stands at 30 metres high and 160 metres wide, estimated to have taken 4 million man-hours to construct. The purpose though remains a complete mystery, with no evidence of a burial inside. 4,500 years ago, Avebury Henge began to lose some of its significance, and was abandoned around 1800 BC. This vast landscape, which was shaped and reshaped over millennia, was a deeply ceremonial centre in prehistoric Britain. It reflects the cultural shifts of its time, evolving alongside the people who built and used it. For many though, Avebury does still remain a spiritual site today. Potentially the echo of this human importance still resonates with us. Thank you very much for watching this video and exploring this incredible landscape with me. If you enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe for more archaeology content and content about Avebury, as I intend to make a video game that embodies this importance and incredible place with so much archaeology and history. And if you would like any other videos on any aspects of my game or other parts of Avebury, do just let me know. And thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.